Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 9th episode of the Creative Insider. I'm glad you're joining me in this conversation with Samuel Williams. He is an architect from New Zealand, and during his life, he has lived in Canada, Australia, and currently he's in Germany. In this conversation, we're talking about what are the opportunities in the architectural field and how to move throughout continents. Welcome to the new episode and enjoy.
Stops just like that. The whole world stops just like that.
Hello everybody and welcome to the 9th episode of the Creative Insider. Today we have a special guest to me because it's a very interesting guest. I will learn a lot from him. That's Samuel Williams. He is a former colleague of mine. We work together in the same office here in Frankfurt. So hello Samuel.
Hey, how you doing? Good to be here.
Thank you for coming. You can start introducing yourself a little bit. Tell the audience more about you.
Well, first of all, you can call me Sam, not Samuel. So.
Okay. Who call you?
Hello. It's very in Germany. It's very formal, isn't it, to use the full names?
Well, yeah. Okay. Everybody calls him Sam, but I wanted to be more polite in the beginning of the podcast.
No, it's good to be here. It's good to have the invite. Hopefully, I can bring some experience and different stories to the Creative Insider.
Yeah, for sure. So for the European audience, you will be very, very interesting because you're from New Zealand, right?
Have you heard of it? It's not always on the map.
Some people recently have even said that you in Australia doesn't exist. What can you, like flat earthers are saying you don't?
We often don't. We often say our country doesn't exist just to keep it, pristine and
okay,
and good. But no, we exist. We're a little island nation of 5 million. We've got 5 million people now. Yeah, this year.
Oh, okay, that's good. So there are 5 million non-existing people in the world.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, I think a lot of people go to Australia and then go, "Hey, what's this little place over to the side? I could spend a week there. Yeah, it seems pretty good."
That's cool. So, as you said, you're from New Zealand and you moved to Germany. But let's start from the beginning. So,
sure.
As I said, we're colleagues, so you're an architect too. So, how everything started? How did you decide to become an architect or to approach into the architectural field?
Well, I always thought it was my fascination with Lego blocks and building out of Lego, and I was always happy as a child to sit there quietly building something with my Lego. But I did ask my mum this morning. We had a family Zoom meeting this morning. I said, "Hey, how did I get into thinking about architecture?" And my mum said, well, one night you were about 13 or 14 and I came down, you were reading in bed and you were trying to figure out your sort of career paths because, you're in high school and you start to think about these things. And she said, well, what about architecture? You probably should do something creative that, you're a creative sort of person. Something that involves that would keep you happy in your career. And so I thought, yeah, what is this architecture? So I think I researched it and just went, yep, that's what I'm doing.
I think the Lego story is a little bit of a classic story for every
Cliché.
architect, because I played a lot myself with Lego when I was a small kid, but I also took it as a more personal approach because my mom was working in a public institution.
Yep.
And so she needed a lot of connections to get through her career, and she hated that. So she said, you are good at these practical things like drawing, and you have this weird creativity. So why don't you try architecture? Because there you need to know something that's useful for everybody.
Yeah.
And you have to produce an actual product that everybody wants. So you don't need connection. They will get you somewhere to work, whatever it is. And actually it worked out. And so what age is when you needed to start, I don't know.
Thinking subjects about what to study.
For example, how did you get into, where did you study, in New Zealand or in Australia or?
I went to Unitec Institute of Technology in Auckland. We have, it sounds a bit funny, we only have about four schools of architecture in New Zealand. So, it's a small sort of study community, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, but four school of architecture for 5 million people are not that few, I think.
Yeah. And you sort of asked, how did I choose that particular?
No, how do you access the university in New Zealand? Do you need to have a test, or you just need to have good grades in school?
Yeah, you need to have some good grades, and also for architecture, you needed a portfolio of work. Okay. So I would bring. I studied at high school. I did graphic design. I did a bit of painting and this sort of thing. So I had to, bring a portfolio of sketches and that sort of thing to my interview. You had an interview as well. So, yeah.
And they do an interview with every single candidate?
Yeah, they do an interview with every single candidate. But I think it's more of they've already kind of accepted you if you've got the interview.
Okay.
In that particular case.
Do they have a limitation of the spots?
Yeah, we were a class of about 140 or so students.
Okay.
Yeah, by the time you finish in fifth year, it's down to about 70.
But how many apply?
Oh, I wouldn't say.
Because, for example, I think it's interesting because I think in Germany, to access the university, or at least to access a master program, you need a portfolio. To access a bachelor, you need a grade from your high school to be quite good. So you compete with other people. But for example, in Italy, we have this very Italian system to me where they think, okay, maybe when you were in a high school, you haven't been so smart, like you didn't study a lot, so your grade is not so good. So they do this access test. So you go to this test, and then you need to solve. I don't remember how many questions.
It sounds like a lot of pressure.
It's like a lot of prep. So because every university has a limited number of students that can accept to control, the market also.
Yeah.
And the quality. And so you have this test where there are part of the questions are regarding architecture, but most of the questions are like logic or history of art or something else.
Sure.
And I remember that's the second hardest in Italy because there are usually in Rome there are 3,000 people applying.
Wow, that is...
And 300 get in.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it's like 1 every 10 people, but a lot of the people are just, just giving it a try.
Well, there's such a long history of architecture in Italy. I think they must want, you're following in the footsteps of Palladio and all these great architects that
And how was it when you started? So you have a bachelor and master program too in New Zealand?
It was interesting when I first when I started at the university. It was going to be a 5-year bachelor, but halfway through they completely changed the system, and I ended up graduating with a master's for 5 years. It was interesting. They wanted to align it more with the international standards for architecture studies, and they, most places overseas do a 3-year bachelor and then they're followed by a 2-year practical master's, and they completely changed our idea of what we were going to be graduating with. So I did a thesis in 5th year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how was the university? Because I've studied in 2 different schools, which are very, very different. Let's say the approach in Italy, it's more think about this concept, which is nothing. It's an ideal concept. I don't know, make your building fly or point on heaviness or lightness, and then develop this project. And in Germany, when I had this approach, professors were like, yeah, cool. How you build it, how you make the technology, how you we want it a little boxier because it's easier to build. So how is New Zealand in this approach of design?
Actually, we found that I chose this particular architecture school because it was slightly more practical. I talked to an architect before choosing, because I had the choice of 2 places, and he said, yep, that's going to get you out of there with some really good industry knowledge, and also you had to do work experience to be able to graduate from the architecture school, and a lot of the other architecture schools didn't require that. And I thought, well, an internship seems to be pretty a good thing to do. So,
but you need experience like in an architectural office, or
yeah, just in the field. I did do an internship in a architectural office in my third year. Yeah, just before the recession, which was lucky. But yeah, I chose it because it seemed more practical, more functional. And when we did competitions with the other architecture schools, we're putting up our work, they're putting up their work in a competition. It was really obvious that the other schools were doing much more theoretical concepts, maybe a bit more about the story of their design and a bit more about how they got to their design, all the iterations of their design. And we were a bit more, how is this going to stand up? What's the structure? How are the details working? This sort of stuff was coming out from Unitec rather than the other schools.
Now that I was listening to you and I was asking you about how did you get in the university, I was wondering, are there foreign students that are trying to get to study architecture in New Zealand, and from South Asia, from Australia, from where are the main?
Oh well, the main students for New Zealand come from China actually.
Okay.
And so we had a few in our class. I had two Norwegians in our class. Maybe a German or two. I'm not sure. Yeah.
But like really studying there, or just exchange programs?
No, studying for the full 5 years.
Okay. And they do you know how they access the university the same way you did, or do they have a different?
We have I think we had a sister school in Europe.
Okay.
Yeah, it might have actually been in Germany. Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, I wouldn't be sure how they did their exchange, but these things are set up between countries, to do student exchanges. It's a big, it's also a big money way of universities in New Zealand to create funds.
Yeah, I think there is a similar situation in Europe. I don't know about Germany, but for example, in Italy, as I said, as it's so structured, access to the university, you have to apply to take the test. And I remember there was a special application because they have a number of spots which are reserved for foreign students, and another reserved number of Chinese students.
Really? Yeah.
And I think we had some sort of program with North Korea, because it's funny, but we had a group of students from North Korea which were always been drive to the school with the driver and picked up back.
Oh wow!
And I might have been to school with the future dictator of North Korea. Who knows? I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, they'll probably have a bit more worldly experience at least if they do become a dictator.
Yeah. Once I had a conversation with one of those, I was like, "How do you feel about North Korea once you've been here?" And he looked at me very scared, and he was like, "Oh, it's not so much different than here. North Korea is the same. We have internet. It's just a different internet. We decide what to." So it was very, very funny.
Yeah, I've had a friend travel to North Korea as well, and he brought back some very nice posters of the glorious leaders posters for us. So, yeah. Yeah,
I think that's the thing there. And so you had a quite international environment in the university too.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of local students, but also some international students. We also, I know they reserved places for Māori students as a minority group. It was a good course, practical. Some of the things we did were actually building buildings. We built.
You built too.
Yeah. In our fourth year, we built a holiday house, or we call it a batch.
So the university put the money to build it?
We got sponsorships from construction companies.
Okay, that's really cool.
From hardware, and a guest. We had a guest lecturer, a practicing architect, come in and take the course. So, and we worked in his offices as well, to get the drawings done. And
how are the professors, the teachers in New Zealand? Because, for example, in Italy, the professor is this figure where you go, and you kind of go in this class, and the teacher is like God
at the front of the class,
and he's like, oh, yeah, you are all just stupid, and I'm here to give you some knowledge. And then you come to Germany, and the people are like, yeah, do whatever you like, and we can have a beer at the semester party. And so I was like, what? I'm just having a beer with my professor. That's not possible. So how is in New Zealand? If you go to New Zealand, what?
I think is very casual. It's a bit more relaxed. We went on class trips around New Zealand with our professors, and went out drinking to bars with our professors. And I actually did 6 weeks in Italy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Where did you go?
Where didn't we? We went to Rome. We were in Florence, Prato, Venice, Siena. Those are the main spots. And then we did a lot of day trips around.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And so we got pretty, we were, quite on good terms with our lecturers. They weren't some sort of mystical front of class preacher person. They were, we looked up to them, but they were communicable with us,
No, but in Rome, they were not like mystical, but they were like, for example, I had as a teacher the chief architect of the Vatican City.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So he was like, oh, the Pope is calling me because we need to repair a church here. And I'm like, these guys, and Rome is this very weird city because it's so old, and there is no really easy access to this society, class, and levels.
Right.
And which is one of the reasons I moved away from there, because a lot of people are asking me, why did you move away from Italy, from Rome, such a beautiful climate, city, food? Well, because there is no much to do there as an architect unless you don't have these connections, and they don't want to build anything new because they want to keep it old.
That's interesting, because after coming back from Italy, because I just loved Italy, the food and the architecture and the thing. I thought, I'm going to learn Italian and go back and work in Italy. But I can imagine now it takes a local architect to really...
I love Italy too, but I love it for the same reasons you do, for the food, for the climate, it's a perfect place for a holiday. But to live there, it's so chaotic, and sometimes you feel frustrated because it's too chaotic. You need to get disorganized and chaotic too, and just accept it. And but you said that you had a lot of practical experiences in architectural studios, and also as practical experiences building stuff. And how did that so you were studying, did that help you to transition into the professional world? How did this step how did you move from being just a student to transition to a profession? And
I must have to go back as well, saying I did a bit of building with my father as well. I can't just credit my mum for saying you should do architecture. My dad built his first house with my uncle, and we also built a couple of balconies, and did all this sort of stuff. And my parents were always renovating their houses, so I got the practical side of building, I think, from him as well, as being as doing the stuff at the university. Your question about how it transitions into working in a firm or post-graduation.
Like earning actual, maybe, because I did a lot of renovation works with my dad, because back in the days, my family bought a flat in Italy, and that was a little older, so we needed to renew it completely. So I helped on the refurbishing of the flat, but it's nothing that I'll earn money from. Like my dad was giving me some, small money, but I mean like professionally, to earn money from your profession.
Well, I think it's very important to know how things are put together on the site, and so you know what you're drawing. You're not coming because it just you do see the fresh graduates starting drawing, and they're not quite sure. They know what they're drawing, but they're not quite sure how it works together on a site. What's the best way. So you can save a lot of time if you first, I think, learn the practical knowledge and then go to the drawing. Do it that way around. Do a bit more site experience early, and then come back and say, okay, now I know what I'm actually drawing. Rather than oh, okay, I draw these things on the paper, but I've never touched them. I've never interacted with them, and I don't know how the builder is actually gluing this, nailing this, screwing this together. So yeah, no, it was I think the right way, and you do see a lot of very good architects who were builders before and become architects. They do very well in the residential sector, I think, because of this. The details are just crisp and clean, perfect details.
And and when did you move to work for an actual office full time or?
Yeah, so as I said, I graduated. My last year was 2009, just after the global financial crisis. So not a great time to graduate from a profession where, let's just say, I called my old firm, which I did my internship in. I said, yeah, so I'm finished, graduated, got a job. And they were like, we just had to fire half of our staff. So, no, we're not taking on any fresh grads. But I was fortunate to land my first job for a friend's father who ran a factory, and his factory produced playgrounds. And they were doing all their drawings of their parts that they were manufacturing in by hand. And every time they would update a slide, a swing, it was like, oh no, we have to draw this again and again and again. And they said, we need to digitize this. We need to have someone come in and CAD this stuff.
Oh, okay.
So that was my first job after studying.
Oh, that's quite cool. It's interesting. I've recently seen, of course, I guess you have Netflix.
Yeah.
There is this show Abstract. It's a series about different design fields. And there is one episode about a woman that designs games for children. So I think that's very interesting to hear that you were in that field. And how long did you work in that field?
I worked for them for about a year, maybe a bit longer. And it was on a freelance basis. So I could work from home and then come into the office, go into the factory and talk with the guys in the factory and get a sense of what they needed to be drawn and modeled, and then go back home and do the work from home, working in Vectorworks. That was Vectorworks. And after that, I took a year off architecture and design and went and snowboarded in Canada and lived in Canada for 8 months.
Oh, you lived in Canada too. That's also cool. But I was thinking, when you graduate in New Zealand, are you already automatically part of, I don't know if it's called the Board of Architects?
The Chamber of Architects.
The Chamber of Architects. Are you automatically an architect what is the procedure?
Oh, no, it's a long way to go to get there.
How do you do that in New Zealand?
In New Zealand, you have to have worked on a project from all through the phases not just a project, but projects from the earliest phase to the last phase, or at least if not worked on it, been involved in the architect who is working on it. Like your boss is doing a fee proposal and you need to know how to do that. Or if you're not doing it yourself, you need to be understanding. So after this experience, then you have to write a very, very large case study for the projects that you were working on to demonstrate that you know everything there is to know about.
To prove that you know that you did it.
Yeah. So you write this big case study, and following the case study, you have a 3.5 hour conversation with a panel of architects, which is who are asking questions to try and find the holes in your education and knowledge.
Okay.
This might explain why I never did that.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, I'm not part of any chamber of architecture, but for example, because I'm putting these stories in between because actually it's kind of an overview for the people who are listening. You're giving these cool insights from New Zealand, because I think that me personally, I have no clue about how...
In Germany?
No, New Zealand, New Zealand, because for me personally, it's this very far away place. I've heard a couple of times that actually New Zealand is good for architects, that you look for architects because there are not enough there, but I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, I think we've, in the last, especially since the big Christchurch earthquake in Christchurch really flattened the city in quite a bad way, and so there was a big need for architects, and we got a lot of work from people coming in from overseas. And I did some work on down there on a project. And yeah, my girlfriend said, there's not much need for architects in Germany right now. But I got a job, so I'm happy.
Yeah, I don't know. Before the whole situation with the pandemic, it was pretty good. I don't know how it's going to develop. We'll see.
A lot of Germans like to study architecture, though. It's
yeah, but I think, for example, Italy is the country with most architect per capita.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, that's why there are so many working at McDonald's building burgers. So I didn't want to do that. That's why I moved over.
Oh yeah,
from there. And no, but for example, in Italy, to get into the Chamber of Architects, it's really weird because you take an exam, and this exam, for what I know, it's 3 days. And the funny thing is that you need to draw. So they give you this task.
Yeah,
you need to design a project, like design a multi-family house or a house, and you need to draw it by hand. So you need to draw
old school, and then you need to write a paper about whether one topic they give you, or it's again very weird. A question you don't know what's coming.
I think that they prepare you for the exam with a large amount of topics, but I don't know exactly how it's this kind of 3-4 days test. It happens 2-3 times a year, and then if you pass, you become an architect. Here in Germany, as far as I know, you need to work 2 years after graduation, or at least 1 year after you graduated in an office. And here the phases are 9, I guess. And then you need to have a sort of a certificate from each phase from your office that you were working on them, and then you get into the bar.
Right. That sounds better than the Italian system of drawing.
Yeah, because it makes sense, because they have a proof that you actually know what to do. But it sounds also a little better than the New Zealand way, where it's kind of like impossible.
It's no. I've got friends. It's just a lot of work after work. It's a lot of weekend work. I was planning on doing it until I moved to Australia, and then I thought, I'll do it in Australia, because the Australian system is a bit more of, from what I've heard, a bit more of a multi-choice type test kind of thing. And yeah, I've heard it's a bit less time.
But let's go back to Canada. You're running too fast. So you moved from designing,
doing some
playgrounds to Canada. How did you get in to go to Canada?
That was just something I always wanted to do, is just do a ski season. So I wasn't doing any architecture. I was just sharpening skis. And
but is it cold in New Zealand? Are there mountains to ski a lot?
Yeah. We've got the Southern Alps, and we've also got a large mountain in the Northern Island. Anyway, that was a year of no architecture, but I did go and travel after that through many of large US cities. I went through LA, Chicago, Washington, New York, Boston, and took a lot of photos of and saw a lot of great, buildings there, which was...
Oh, yeah. But did you do it in between, or
afterwards? Yeah,
afterwards. So you were 1 year in Canada,
8 months, and then a month and a half in the US traveling, and then back to New Zealand.
Okay, and so you were just a tourist in the US.
Yeah.
For 1 month, you said.
Yeah, maybe a bit longer. Yeah.
What was your impression from the US? From what you've seen?
I've been a few times. That time was. Look, there's a big difference between Canada and the States. Let's just say when you get on the bus and you get into the States, it's a bit different. The people...
because from what I know from South Park, Canadians have squared wheels.
Oh, no, Canadians just love to talk, and they're so friendly,
I know, yeah.
They think you might be lost. Oh, where are you going? It's so nice. And the Americans are a bit more, I'm an individual. Don't look at me. I don't want to bring any stereotypes into this podcast.
Well, no, it's about...
And your girlfriend is American, so hey,
half American. I always joke with her that I tell her sometimes that she's German. She's like, oh, don't tell me I'm German. Don't tell me I'm German. Like, yeah, but you kind of are a little bit German. Then you're also American. But I have myself. I had a former flatmate from Canada, and yeah, she was very friendly, and I've often thought it's so funny. She's so naive because like you could trick her whatever however you wanted to. And then from the US, you went back to New Zealand, and what happened then?
Then I did a bit of freelance residential work. I did a bit of work just for people I knew. A family friend had some work. He was subdividing his farm and needed a young architect to do cheap work for him. You know how it is. But no, it was good work. I was designing houses for a farm and doing some alterations and extensions. But I was still pretty fresh at that stage. You know, I hadn't worked in a firm yet, and here I am trying to do building consent drawings and all that sort of stuff. So I felt a little bit out of my depth, as you can imagine, trying to, you know, start from not having the tutelage of a firm. So I thought after about a year of doing that, maybe a bit longer, I thought I should probably see what it is like to work in an architecture firm. So.
But how did you do this job if you weren't part of any chamber?
I didn't sign the drawings. Obviously, I had another architect who could check the work and
okay.
Yeah. But I was sort of doing the work.
And how much do you earn? I mean, I don't want exact numbers, round numbers in New Zealand. So what kind of money you have in New Zealand, first of all?
Well, we're the dollar. We have dollars.
But New Zealand dollars?
Yeah, New Zealand dollars, yeah.
Okay, and how much is a New Zealand dollar in euros? Do you know that?
Yeah, it is about 66 cents or something around there, 60 or 70 cents euro.
So do you know around what is the average for, I don't say the most experienced architects, but for an average architect, how much do you get in New Zealand?
Well, how many years of experience are you talking? I mean...
I don't know, like you. 5, 10, what, something like this. 5.
5 what?
5 years.
5 years experience. You might be on 60 to 70,000
a year.
Yeah.
So that makes 30,000 euros around.
Yeah, it's
30.
more than half. Yeah.
So it's similar. But without taxes or
before tax, yeah.
Before tax, and is it the taxation in New Zealand very strong or?
It's probably less than Germany.
Okay,
yeah.
So but basically you earn something similar to Germany.
Yeah. We'll move on to Australia next, but Australia pay was a bit better than New Zealand. Yeah.
I've heard that Australia has some. So how did you end up in Australia? I mean, you just crossed the ocean?
No, so let's go back. So I joined an architecture firm. I needed to learn from some experience. And this architecture firm I worked for nearly 5 years. And they do mainly healthcare. Did a lot of hospitals, clinics, and a bit of aged care, retirement stuff. So I worked for them for a number of years, and it was good. Yeah,
that's an interesting experience because I don't know how it works in New Zealand, but for example, in Italy, when they're building a hospital, which probably doesn't happen that often. But when they do, there are a limited number of office they invite to the competitions because it's this so specific type of construction that they just need a quality check. So I think that's so weird because if you are a startup building architectural office that has never built hospitals, but you might be a genius in building hospitals. They never give you the chance.
How do you get in the door, right?
Yeah, that's so weird to me. But that's, So it wasn't for sure a very interesting experience designing hospitals because they have these special slabs because you have that special machinery, X-ray and stuff.
Yeah.
Am I right? Or?
Yeah, you have to do a lot of set downs for equipment and you do a lot of cabling. The services in the hospitals are a complex beast. Yeah, a real complex beast. And I think... Do you know what? I think this firm I worked for, they've been around for 25 years, but they got their foot in the door by doing a 1-to-1 scale model of an operating theater and proving to the client that they could design by doing a 1-to-1 scale.
Yeah, but
It's insane.
That's insane because you need to invest a lot of money in this prototype. It's like all in, whether you get it, but for sure it's also a very good field because if you get into the field of designing those buildings, there are there is not the same competition.
No, we were competing with only a small number of other firms, 2 or 3 top tier healthcare firms. So there was always work. Hospitals are always having to either refurbish, extend, so they did very well through the GFC, and they're probably doing pretty well right now with the government work,
Yeah, I mean, currently designing hospitals is pretty even better business, I guess. I mean, in Australia, for what I know, there is no so much problems with COVID as in the rest of the world, but
yeah, the only tricky thing with healthcare design is the budgets are so tight. We did a lot of public work, so as an architect, you get delight out of choosing a nice vinyl color or making the perfect reception desk just so
but
making a lot from a little.
This is this is a very funny topic because I think in every assignment you get as an architect, you have this very tight budget. And then what I hear often from the common people is like, oh, you're an architect, so I may ask you something. Why do you build everything like a box? Why is all boxy? And I always answers this like, why don't you drive? Why don't you buy a Mercedes with the money for an Opel or for another car? Like if you pay me for building a box, I build you a box. If you pay me for build you a better building,
Frank Gehry.
But that's always. I think it's in every project. Everybody doesn't want to give money and they want to get the best.
The most they can get out of it, sure.
Yeah. And there you work how many years approximately?
4.5 years about, yeah.
And then you moved to Australia.
Yeah, then I moved to Australia, moved to Melbourne and worked in a larger firm.
But how come that you decided to move?
It was, I should say before that I met a nice German girl. And our plan was to be in Melbourne working together. So I moved to Melbourne so we could...
The same German girl that's currently your girl? Okay.
Yeah. But for her, she actually found a better job in Germany. So she stayed in Germany and I'd already kind of committed to the move to Melbourne. So I'm like, okay, I'll just, do Melbourne and we can do a long distance relationship a bit,
Yeah, so, and you moved to Melbourne and for example, in the last few episodes, I talked to my girlfriend. You've heard the episode about moving abroad.
Yeah, it was a great episode, by the way. Just
thank you.
It was good conversation.
She will be happy to hear that. She was she was curious to see what will be the response to that episode. So
definitely.
We talked about different chances to move abroad. And how did you do it? Did you apply before you moved? Did you apply for a job or you just moved and then you start looking for a job?
Yeah. So do you use recruiters here in Europe much to get jobs?
Yes, I got my last job by a recruiter.
Okay. Yeah. Cause didn't seem to be such a big thing here, but I contacted recruiters to set up interviews. So
you contact them?
Yeah, I contacted them and said, hey, you get a lot of LinkedIn stuff coming in, hey, we've got jobs and that sort of thing. But no, I found one or two recruiters and said, hey, look, I'm going to be in Melbourne for 2 weeks. Set me up some interviews with these companies, or can you find some companies who would like to interview me? And so I landed. Spent 2 weeks in Melbourne, did interviews, and then I took a holiday in Thailand, and then came back and had a job offer. So that was great. It was really fast, actually, the way it worked.
But did you get an interview or?
Yeah.
Okay, and was it online or was it?
No, because I was in Melbourne for the 2 weeks, and so I went to a number of studios, so I could see the offices and you know, talk face to face. And and so I went with a firm with about 150 people in Melbourne, and I worked for them on a big school education project for Victoria.
You remind me because for example, I was thinking before a few years ago, I was thinking that I want to go to New York. So I came up with the idea that you are not allowed to work in the US if you don't have a visa.
Yeah, green card, yeah.
But I read, and you're allowed to have a job interview.
Okay.
So
yeah.
my strategy was, if I wanted to go to have a holiday in the US, and I was thinking I can send because for me it's, you know, if you're, let's say, in New Zealand and you want to apply for a job in Germany, and you send me a portfolio, I'm gonna think, cool portfolio, but
when are you gonna be here, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or I can get 1,000 of interviews right with people here. So I was thinking to send my portfolio and write them. I'm coming to New York in
a month
or 2 months, and it would be great if you can invite me for an interview, and then we can figure, because once you have a job offer, it's so much easier to get a visa for the US, because the US, they're happy, you know, you go there and just pay taxes. So
well, like here, once you have a job offer here, you get the visa, right? It comes after the job,
And so you moved to Australia, started in this big company, and you worked basically on educational buildings.
Yeah, I'd never worked on educational buildings before. You know, I was coming from healthcare, so in Melbourne, they have a lot of new suburbs they're building around the periphery of Melbourne, and you know, they build all these houses and then they don't have a school. It's a bit backwards compared to what happens in Europe, I think. But
well, not everywhere. I think that, for example, the US are this big country that you can take as one, Canada, but Europe, if you like in the same distance, maybe in Australia, you travel 1 hour with a plane, you land and you're in the same country, same culture, slightly different. Here, if you take a plane from Frankfurt and land in Rome, it's totally different world.
Sure.
So I think Germany, it's pretty good because they have this whole city planning system.
Yeah, it's very much...
so they program everything.
Yeah, we should get to that later when we talk about the differences between...
Okay.
Yeah.
So you did basically the most limited aspects of architecture, which is healthcare and educational buildings, because educational buildings usually also have this whole security about fire security, fire safety with the kid. I don't know, for what kind of schools did you design?
They were primary schools from the age of 5 until 12 years, and they were kind of in the countryside in a way, but with houses all around them. You know, I would drive out to the building site. So we were these schools got built in a year, and we did 10 of them. 10 schools in 1 year built. It was crazy fast.
And did you do like one project for one school and then you copy paste adapted to here's a little higher, a little lower, the side plan?
No, you do a mirror, you mirror this building, you rotate this building. Yeah, it's all template based, you know.
But you did good money your office did good money probably, because one design slightly adapted and
it worked sometime. It worked okay. We're working in Revit, so you can do some very clever things in Revit with referencing. But you know, it gets tricky. It's always tricky.
Yeah,
when the client says, okay, it's the same, but a little bit different. And you go, damn it, breaks the whole thing, you know?
But you said that in Australia you can earn a little better money. So just for the general information, again, I'm not curious about knowing how much exactly you have earned. Just for the audience to have an idea. For example, if I go to Australia,
what might you earn? So how long have you worked, Georgi?
5 years, let's say.
Yeah, so I think you'd be And what type of? Are you working for a big firm doing?
I've worked in the same company you're currently working. I have worked for a very short period of time in another more design-oriented office.
Yeah.
And again in a big company.
Yeah. So again, it's Australian dollars now. I'd say you're between 70 and 80,000 Australian.
And what is one Australian dollar in euros or dollars or
now
what?
you're gonna make me open my.
Around, don't you?
It's 62.
Okay, I don't want the exact number. 60 cents is so 70.
I'm going to give you the exact number now. So
okay, we're doing a little bit of research here because we want to be lucrative in this podcast. It's about money.
€1 is $1.62. Hey, I think I was kind of
okay.
Right.
So try to calculate. I don't know, 60,000 euro. No, you said $40,000. No.
Okay, you're going to earn 70,000 Australian. You're going to make 42,000 euros.
But that's before taxation.
Yeah. How do you think about that? Is that good or bad?
Well, tell me how much is taxation in Australia? Around
20%. 25%, let's say.
And 25%.
22%.
Yeah, it's maybe a little better than Germany, but not.
You got to factor in the cost of living.
Yeah, and I've heard that Australia is crazy expensive.
If you want to drink, it is. Cheers.
Yeah, we have beer, people.
Yeah, it's good. Got the San Miguel.
Yeah, we can open a second one. The podcast is about authenticity, so even if we have some background noises in a couple of minutes, we can open the second beer.
Look forward to it.
So you stayed there how long in Australia?
About a year.
You built the schools and then
built the schools, yeah, and then doing a long distance relationship is too long.
Yeah,
too far away.
Let's not move too fast to Germany. So, but because another aspect of the whole thing is that, for what I know, when you're young, you can get easily a visa for.
Sure, yeah.
Australia, you can have 1 year work and travel as a European, and then I know I have a friend. He lives in Australia, or he was used to live in Australia. I don't know if he's still there. He told me that you get this 1 year work and travel, and then you can stay, but you have to do like some very bad job, farm work, where you can get killed from any kind of poisoning animals. And so how does
that work?
Is there a difference for New Zealand citizens?
Yes, we can work straight, just like as if we were in our own country.
But
Australia.
is it this because is New Zealand part of the Commonwealth?
Yes.
So how is that? For example, when you go to Canada, was the same thing because it's a Commonwealth?
No, but I was young enough at that point to do a working holiday. So
okay, so you did one year working.
I'm too old now, Georgi, but I was 27, I think, or 28 when I did that. So that was no problem for me to do a 1 year working holiday there. But
okay,
I'm not sure how it would be now. I think I would need a visa for Canada.
Okay, and then you went to Australia where you could work freely?
Freely, yep.
And then you wanted to, of course, to get closer to your girlfriend.
Yeah.
And how did you approach the whole moving to Germany? Was it hard to move from Australia to Europe? How did you manage?
Not so hard, considering I only had I took two suitcases and a bike from New Zealand to Australia. So really I could just pack the same suitcases and just take them to No, it was a bit... there was a bit more planning. Definitely had to save a lot of money to put away so that, I knew I wasn't going to come in with a job straight away. I didn't know the language. So I had to have a bit of a safety net of some money. Although, I had a girlfriend, so she could, help with the rent a bit. It was good. I started taking German language courses in Melbourne.
Okay.
And then and then I decided, now's the time to.
But did you figure did you need to figure some paperwork before? Because I guess you can travel visa free, but just for tourism, like for visiting.
Yeah. So we can do 90 days.
Oh, 3 months. Okay.
Yeah. And we're lucky that we have an agreement where we can, I came into Germany with my 90 days. and then I could then apply for a looking for work visa. It's a special visa for some countries like I think the New Zealand, Australia, Canada, maybe not sure. A few countries that Germany says, hey, look, if you come in, that's fine. You can apply for this visa when you get here, which indicates you want to be looking for work. So I did that.
Yeah, I guess you have this maybe a little lighter situation because the main people coming from Australia, New Zealand, or wherever, they're just coming for reasons like yours. They're not coming because of lack of opportunities down there.
Or they're not coming from a difficult regime or something. Or
yeah, exactly.
Whereas I know that when I was in the language school here in Frankfurt, most of the people I was with from Latin America and South America and places, they were all having to apply from their own country to get into Germany, right? They're from Mexico. You have to go through a whole process in your own country before even getting on the plane. Whereas I was lucky in that I could do it here once I got here.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And when you arrive here, let's go a little away from the architecture so we can have a break from the whole architectural talk. So you moved so you said the Canadians were extremely friendly when you moved to Canada.
Yep.
People were very friendly and tried to help. I think I know you're the first and only how do you call the New Zealand people?
You can say Kiwis.
Oh, the first Kiwi I know. A part of the All Blacks. I don't know them personally though.
Yeah.
So how are the people in New Zealand generally? How would you describe the people in New Zealand too? Because the podcast is called The Creative Insider. It's about creativity. But what I believe is that whatever you do in your life, if you don't feel fulfilled aside of your professional field or your job, you need also your environment to be
your
cool.
Community.
Yeah, community. So how are the Kiwis?
Well,
how would you describe the Kiwis?
I think most people who visit us generally say met great people and everyone was friendly and willing to help. I think we're pretty laid back group of people. We don't get into unnecessary wars and conflicts and
stress.
Yeah, we're a bit like the islands. No one's in a rush. I mean, maybe a bit more in the cities, but we're just like a bit more chilled and.
But do you come from the capital? Or you come from?
No, I come from Auckland. Auckland's the largest city. It's not the capital. Capital's Wellington. Maybe that's a good thing, not having your capital in the big city. But yeah. So I mean, I'm a city. I grew up in the city. So yeah, there is a difference between the people you'll meet from the city and from the smaller parts, the rural parts of. Like in any country, I think.
And how were the Australians much different than the Kiwis?
Yeah, we have.
Because for me, personally, I've never really left Europe. The only time I left Europe, I was in Turkey, and Istanbul is half in Europe and half in Asia. So if you cross the bridge, theoretically you're in Asia.
I have to go there. It's
yeah,
crazy interesting place, right?
Yeah, it's very it's I think one of the weirdest holidays I have done ever, because it's a very different. It's I have to say the most welcoming people that I have
ever
met. Yeah, they were super welcoming. They're super they sell you stuff, whatever you want, they sell it to you. For example, I was looking for batteries because back then I had this digital camera and I had rechargeable batteries, but they ran out.
Mm-hmm.
So ran out of power, and I needed just 2. So they had packages of 4. I said no, I'm not gonna buy 4. I just need 2. The guy looked at the package of 4, and he opened the package and sold me 2 batteries for the half price.
Good.
So they're very cool people, but it's a mixed culture. And then I wanted to go to the US, but then the whole pandemic started, and now we don't know when we're gonna be able to travel around the globe.
Yeah,
we are slowly starting to travel inside Europe, but the rest of the world is still very uncertain.
I think New Zealanders were a little bit, could I say, not naive, but we don't have some of the problems in other countries. And I remember a lot of us, when we were in our study trip to Italy, a lot of us got pickpocketed because we were just had no idea, you know.
Oh, okay.
My wallet got stolen on the second day I was there.
I
Not to say too much bad about Italy, but
I got once too, and I lived there for a long time. And once because when you live in Rome, you have, I call it the Trinity. So you have keys, smartphone, and wallet.
Yeah.
So I always, whatever, I have this habit to
check
to tap on the pocket.
Yeah.
And when I went to the underground in Rome, because it's very packed, I do it that often.
Yeah.
And one day I just like doing my check before leaving the train, and I feel like the wallet is leaving.
Leaving the pocket.
I was like, what is happening? So I couldn't realize how it's happening. So I just squeezed my arm close to my pocket, and I figure out that the guy back to me had a scarf around his hand. So when you have a scarf, you don't feel the
fingers.
You don't feel it because it's all soft. And you're all packed close to each other. And that was very scary. And then a couple of years later, they stole everything, like keys. So it's normal.
Oh, we learned a lot. A guy in our class got his camera, taken when he was giving directions. You know how it is. They do a lot of things, and we're not used to that so much in New Zealand. But yeah.
And when you talk about, I don't feel my wallet right now. I'll look for it. Maybe I lost my wallet, and we're saying it live, although it's not live. And Australians, how were Australians?
Yeah, they're good. They're like pretty welcoming too, I'd say. I mean, I can't say too much about them. That's
why not? Is there some sort of
we've got a friendly rivalry. I mean, it'd be like you talking about Spain, maybe.
For example, Italy and Germany. In Italy, we say Italian doesn't love Germans, but Italians don't love Germans, but they respect them.
Yeah.
And German loves Italians, but don't respect them. So it's sort of this, because it's so the two cultures are very different.
Now, New Zealand and Australia, we're like brothers that fight in sports, but we always like have each other's back. At the end of the day, we've got each other's back. But when we're playing rugby, when we're I don't know, competitive, it's like it's competitive, and we'll bad mouth each other all the time. But it's always a joke.
But as I said, here in Europe, every culture is so different. For example, the most popular sport here is football. It's soccer. And for example, I notice Germans, they are always so the culture, because they are so logical in their thoughts. They are very they're sure of themselves. They're like, okay, we're gonna go to this competition, and we're expecting that we end up in the semifinal at least. And times I was like, yeah, we have a good team, but we never know. We don't say anything. We figure crossed, and we hope if we pass the first turn. And this is, for example, something that I have also the Bulgarian culture in myself. So Bulgarian people are like, we just suck. We don't we don't even hope in success. And so you came from Australia, but how did the Australian treat you while living there? Good?
Great. Yeah. But I have two sisters who live there actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they moved to Australia because I guess Australia is a little bigger.
It's a little bit bigger. They have a bit more opportunities for
more people,
certain fields. A bit more. Yeah.
And when you so you said where did you meet your girlfriend? You met her in Germany. And where did you meet?
Yeah, I met her in Cologne.
Oh,
in the club.
In the club.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a very classical story.
It's a bit better than Tinder, right?
Yeah, definitely. I also met my girlfriend in the club. And I didn't want to go in the club that night, and I met her.
Where was that? Where was that club?
Here in Frankfurt, there is a club in downtown.
Oh, yeah.
It's called Waxis. Do you know it?
No.
It's sort of a. It's not really a club. It's more it's an Irish pub.
Okay, I don't club enough here. We should go out.
We should, yeah. Well, currently it's not possible yet, I guess.
No, that's true.
But in the beginning of July, we might be able.
Do a bit of, because you can't dance yet.
We can go to Waxis. Waxis is a funny place because they are always. It's full of English-speaking people.
Okay.
So there are a lot of. Australian people.
Are you talking about expat bankers who don't ever
No. They're not the expat. Yeah, it's not that kind of pub. And there are still a few bankers too, but for what I know, but there are many different people. So I also went one night to a bar without expecting to. I didn't even want to pick up girls that night, and I met her.
Yeah, same story for me. Yeah.
So you met her, and then you did this long
distance. Yeah,
long distance for a while. And then when you came to Germany, what was the first culture? Did you have some cultural shock by moving in here?
I'd visited it twice before really moving here. But yeah, culture shock. No. I mean,
but for how long have you visited before moving in?
2 weeks here. Oh, yes.
We have some problems with the microphones.
I mean, yeah, there's the culture differences. I had to get used to, Sunday being just about like not shopping,
That was hard for me too.
Yeah, and I heard your girlfriend mention on the other podcast.
Yeah, because we got this, I got the instructions. It felt like, okay, here are the rules to follow in Germany. And they had a list of, 10 things that I wasn't supposed to do.
Yeah, and getting used to Abendbrot.
I don't know what it is.
When you're just eating bread for dinner, having a cold dinner rather than... we always have a warm dinner usually the Germans do the hot lunch thing,
Ah, okay.
Yeah, with just some bread, some basic stuff for dinner. That's a bit different. And also bread for breakfast, right? Do you do bread for breakfast, or are you going... What do the Italians do? I don't know.
Well, for me, it's a little different because, as I said, I was born in Bulgaria and then I moved to Italy.
Yeah.
So in Bulgaria, it's this country where it's a little, let's say, not so developed as the other countries. So it's a country where you don't throw away anything. So we eat
the whole animal.
We eat the whole animal. And so we eat. We have sometimes sweet breakfast, sometimes salty breakfast. We have actually you've tried it when I did a party at the office.
That was good. Yeah.
We eat that bread with this sort of
what's it called?
It's called Lutenica. It's made of tomatoes and peppers that are cooked together, and they have this sort of a sauce form.
That was good.
With feta on top. But for example, if the bread goes old and gets crunchy, we make it in small pieces.
Yeah.
We put sugar, and we put milk. Warm hot milk.
Oh, that sounds like a bit of like an English bread and butter pudding kind of.
Yeah, but you have just...
When the bread goes a bit stale, you just add some milk and some sugar and it's perfect, right?
Yeah. But you eat it with a spoon. It's a lot of... So, yeah. And in Italy, you have the tradition. You go... For example, for me was the problem, the coffee thing. Because in Italy, in the morning, you go to... We call it bar. It's coffee.
Yeah.
And you order a cornetto, which is the croissant.
Yeah.
With marmalade or chocolate or whatever, cream. And you order coffee. But
espresso, man.
But we don't say espresso. We say coffee. For us, coffee is espresso.
Okay.
If you say cafe, means espresso.
Short.
And when it came to Germany, when you go to a restaurant in Italy after you have had your meal, you ask for a coffee. And I was used to say coffee, and I was like, and a coffee, please.
And
they brought me this long German, like a tea coffee.
Like
an
Americano thing. Yeah.
So that was for me weird.
You guys to do a little shot, and then you're out, huh?
Yeah, because for us,
And you're walking.
we are just going to have breakfast and go to work.
When I was my friend, whenever we'd be walking through the streets of Italy, he'd just pop into one of these cafe bars, have a little shot of coffee, and then he's joining the tour group again. Where's he gone? Just having a shot.
Because we don't have this in Italy. You can have coffee for a longer time on Sundays, but usually it's just to wake you up.
But Germans like to have a long breakfast, in my experience.
Yeah, and they don't have, for example, in Italy, you always have your breakfast out, even during the week, because we have this. We drink it at the bar.
Yeah.
So we stand, we don't sit, and it's quicker.
Our breakfast sounds a bit sad compared to yours, where we eat a bit more of a cereal, a bit more porridge. Sometimes if we're going out, we have a nice, eggs and bacon and these sorts of things. But generally, we do it a bit differently.
Yes. Yeah. So, but since I'm here, I don't have any traditional. I have always porridge too.
Okay.
So it's becoming a thing because it's very healthy and.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Whenever I have muesli at the office, people go, "Oh, very healthy muesli. Oh, wow." But it's not. It's just normal for me. Just muesli is muesli.
Yeah, here is becoming popular the last few years.
Yeah.
And something else that surprised you in Germany?
Personal work. What should we say?
Both personal. So you came, and then how did you decide you gonna? How did you find a job here? You started just sending application around. You got this visa, and then.
Yeah, I first thought I should learn as much of German language as I could. So I was full time at a language school. You probably did that as well.
No. For me, it was different because, as I said, I came as an Erasmus student.
Oh,
so,
yeah, right.
In the beginning, I came a little earlier than the beginning of the year at the university, and we had a full-time introduction class to German.
Okay.
But I was with all the exchange students, which were from different parts of Europe, and there were people from Korea, Australia, I guess Canada, and the US.
So did you learn your German as part of the university classes?
In that beginning one, I learned some grammatics, but we always talked English because we wanted to interact with each other.
Yeah.
And it was the first month was this intensive class, they called it. So we did 6 hours a day. But
hard, yeah.
After, it was easy. And then after that, we did very quickly the homeworks, and then we partied all every day. We were out drunk. I was like, after a month, I couldn't do it anymore.
Oh, yeah. Bit of burnout, huh?
Yeah.
So, I did language school, and then, then I had to find a job. It was...
but I guess for you was also a little, let's say, helpful that you have your girlfriend. She's German, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So she could practice with you if you wanted to. Because when I came here, my community was international, so we didn't...
Yeah.
I have learned German after when I started the classes and there were local students. Then I started learning really German.
Yeah, even though we speak mostly English at home and we should be speaking more German, but she could help me with my understanding, and homework, Hausaufgaben could be,
Yeah, but I think your German is good.
Thanks. It's okay. It's possible.
Well, German, it's something that you'll never master completely.
No, that's true. They say, life's too short to
master German.
Master German, yeah.
And we were at the school, and then how long did you stay at this school for full time?
Full time 6 months or so, maybe a bit longer. And then I put my CV around a number of architecture firms and went through the whole online looking for work. And then got an interview and a job. And
So was the first job you got at the company we worked together?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. First job that I'm currently in is where I am.
And so how was different professional life between New Zealand, Australia, and Germany?
Yes. So I must say that I have been doing quite different types of architecture between New Zealand, Australia, and Germany in terms of the phase that I'm working in. So right now I'm working in the design team, doing much more early concept work, doing more doing a bit more competition work. So that stuff I wasn't really doing so much of in New Zealand. In New Zealand and Australia, I was doing site, construction site work.
So you were controlling the construction place, or you were
managing contracts with clients and the builder, being on site and doing construction observation. Yeah.
Okay.
So coming here, obviously with not being fluent in German, I can't do that kind of work. In my old job, I'm talking constantly with the builders and the consultants, sending, always the phone's always ringing, and that wasn't going to work here.
Yeah.
So I'm doing much more in-house work and dealing in a small team with, like I said, doing competition work. So that's
okay.
Good. Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
I think I've started with that too, and because in the beginning it's just easier to be in that field because it's more about the design, and then it's not so much paperwork.
I don't have to write notes.
Exactly. You don't need
no specifications and this.
Yeah. Well, less you care less about the specification, and then I did the same, and then they moved me to a project which was going through all the phases, so that was fun and it was my first project where I designed it and I saw it built, so it was pretty cool. And how is the so for example, is there a different way of interaction between colleagues in the different countries? Because, for example, what I've noticed in Germany is that people have this stereotype around Europe that Germans are cold people and not so open. But my impression is that they're just more structured, so they don't like so much spontaneous things. So they are more like I would like to hang out with you, but just tell me in advance so I can plan it.
Right. Yeah, the Germans they're a bit more to the point, right? Yeah. So,
but also it's like, because for example, in Italy we have this sort of philosophy that whenever is a chance to enjoy something, you need to take the time to enjoy it, because you never know what's going to happen.
Right.
So, for example, my experience is that here in Germany, the weather is not so nice as in Italy. It can easily be sunny and then rain half an hour later. So when I see
you should come to New Zealand. It changes every hour.
Okay.
I'm loving the weather in Europe.
Okay. Is it but colder in New Zealand generally?
Not necessarily, but just in terms of how stable it is here.
Okay.
I think the weather is more predictable here.
Maybe, in Italy, it's more, I'm used to it. When it gets to be May, July, it's basically sunny.
Yeah.
And then
you can count on it, right?
Yeah, you can be sure.
You can be sure, yeah.
So it's nothing special. It's just, you are happy when it's a little fresher, because it gets too hot.
Yeah.
And here and the summer is very, very uncertain, because one day it's so, the same day can change. Yeah. So I've tried sometimes with colleagues to be like, okay, let's go here in Frankfurt. We have this cool river. So I'm like, let's go to the river, enjoy a little beer, a little chat. Yeah, I would like to, but let's do it in 3 weeks. I'm like, man, I'm just saying today because it's a cool weather, not because
they need to put it in a calendar or something. It's not spontaneous enough.
It's what my impression is.
Yeah, they're very planned, and I think I've seen that with the way that they design buildings and work on projects. It's very, it's sort of slowly, cautiously thought out in stages. That there's a lot of talking to the city back and forth, making sure it's all good. There's nothing like, let's just build it now.
Yeah.
It's much more considered and slow.
I think that I've read a few years ago this book, and then the blog of the author. He's called Mark Manson.
Yeah.
And he lived in I don't know how many countries, but he said something that I thought about, and I think it's true. He said the best part of a country, it's also the worst part of a country. So I think it's the best Germany if you're an architect or designer, it's one of the best countries to move in because you're gonna learn a lot. Because, for example, some things I gave for given in the professional world, and then talking to people, I realized how different it is in Germany. For example, the German way of working is very structured.
Yeah.
You have this every aspect of the work, and the companies actually think about how could we do it more organized and better for everybody to be more accessible for all the employees, and that's very good. But also this structure goes also in the private life. So and the same time in Italy, everything is chaos.
Okay.
You are very chaotic in your private life. You're like, for example, one big difference
Sounds fun though.
in Italy, your mom or because we say home where your parents are.
Yes.
This is another difference. So when your mom or your family, they're cooking something, they always cook more, because if you bring spontaneously one of your friends, it's shameful not to have enough food.
Yeah.
And here in Germany, it's shameful if you come uninvited.
With a uninvited person.
Yeah. So this is two different
Two different approaches.
I wanted to tell, for example, how if you compare the way of working in Australia and New Zealand, where the office is so well structured and organized as here, or a little less, or
Now, in that case, I think it really depends on which offices you work for. Now, I was working for a company in New Zealand which had 30 or 40 employees, so not super big, not small either for New Zealand, let's say that. But the original founders of the company were very structured people. So they put in the systems to have a lot of checklists for your design, your documentation. It was all very much, this is what we're going to do, guys, and it's going to work, and it's going to scale, and you print your drawings at the end of the day, and it can be put here, and it's stamped, and it was very much like this. Whereas I hear my friends in other firms and offices who may be a bit doing more residential, and it's just a bit more chaotic. It's a bit more, we don't have a template for that. No, we don't have a checklist for that. Yeah. And when I came to these meetings with my colleagues, and I was like, we have a checklist for this, and this is this, and this is the form which tells you, what you should look when you go to site. And they go, wow, we don't have any of this stuff,
Yeah, that's something that when I talk to other people in the same fields in other countries, I explain slightly how we work. They're like, oh, no, we don't have such a thing.
No.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, it sounds like you make less mistakes and have better quality control.
Yeah, or organize, because I think that in Germany they want to the companies try to organize it as much as possible that you're replaceable. Like you are a soldier that just they give you off, put another, learn the procedure, and then starts being effective as much.
Not keeping everything up in your head.
No, yeah, because when you work solo, you have more experience than me because you have been a freelancer. But when you work alone, not in a team, you know where you put your files, how you organize your work, so you don't need other people to know.
Yeah.
But in a team, it's different. If you put stuff in your own way, I don't find them anymore.
No.
And I think that's something that I'm very happy to have learned from the German culture.
Yeah, and I think when I look back at my freelance work, where you're still working almost like a student, with your final.
Oh yeah. Final. I when I saw the way of naming the files here, I was like, it's so simple, and I've never thought about it.
Yeah, it's so funny, isn't it? And I remember my meetings, I never took notes, I never took an agenda, I never organized that properly when you're freelancing. And as soon as you start working for a firm, you realize the structure really helps in having these sorts of things in place.
And I'm trying to apply this I started by learning that I improve my personal endeavors, let's say. For example, for the podcast, I have created this structure that, for example, if anything goes lost on my computer, I will retrieve it. This is also, for example, I started the idea of the podcast is to help people that are maybe freelancer or beginners,
Yeah.
and to give them some ideas or tell the stories of the different creatives. So because when you're in the beginning of your path, you are kind of confused, right? You don't know, okay, I want to be an architect, how it's gonna be.
Because it's a lot different working than studying.
Yeah, it's
sure.
very different. When you study, there are no money involved, so you don't have. If you think you have pressure when you're studying because of your grades, when you start working, you have also the money pressure. So, so this is the whole point, to give a little insights, information of because I think that some people underestimate themselves. They think they don't have a story to tell because it's their story and sounds obvious.
Yeah.
Like, for example, you knew you were in Canada, you knew you were in the US, you knew that you met your girlfriend and you moved to Germany. But when you hear it from outside, it's very interesting.
Yeah, I didn't really expect to get the call from you saying, hey, tell your story.
Yeah, because it's really, really, because I think that it's very important how you put the perspective over a subject. Like for you, it's normal. For me, it's normal, my story. But if I tell it to you, maybe you say, oh, that's out of ordinary.
Yeah.
So it's Sunday. It's almost 1.5 hours.
We've been talking that long. Wow.
It's time flies when we have fun. So I didn't ask you that in advance, but the whole point of the podcast is for you to share your story.
Yeah.
And it's important because you can help people through your story, but it's also to create an asset for you to, let's say, put the spotlight also on yourself.
Okay. A bit of self-reflection.
No, a bit of self-promotion.
No.
So
we Kiwis, we don't do self-promotion.
You don't do self-promotion?
No, we don't do that.
Okay, so you don't wanna be contacted from the audience on social media. You wanna.
No. If they want to ask questions,
okay,
follow-up questions, about anything, about how, if they are looking at, writing a CV, whatever, getting into a visa in Germany, sure.
So where can people find you online, if somewhere?
Oh,
do you have Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn?
What's the best way? Probably they could send an email. Is that a good idea?
That's a very Kiwi self-promotion.
Write me a letter, please. Actually, that's more of a German thing to do. Is a letter.
No, letter, but in a bottle.
I'm not going to get any fan mail from this podcast.
Who knows? So whatever.
No, they should send it to you, and then you can.
Okay, so people, if you have questions,
send it to the Creative Insider.
Okay, so people, if you have questions for Sam, just contact the podcast channel on Instagram, on LinkedIn, the usual social media channels.
I follow it. I can see the questions and reply on Instagram or something, right?
Okay, yeah. So, or I will send them to you. They're going to be too many.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, Sam, for coming, for giving some of your weekend time to the podcast.
No worries. Thank you for having me, Georgi, and as your number 9.
As you're you're gonna be number 9, I guess. And thank you, and you're welcome to come back to the podcast, and we can continue our conversation on further topics in the future. You're always welcome whenever you want to hang out.
Yeah, once you're on the Spotify $100 million exclusive.
Yeah, well, then you're gonna beg me to come on the podcast.
No, it's been great talking, and it's been a lot of fun. So thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you, and bye, people. Until the next episode.
The whole world stops just like that.